Good morning, everyone. My name is Joanna Drake, and I am a Deputy Director General at DG Research and Innovation, the Acting Director for DG RTD's Common Policy Centre, as well as Mission Manager for the Cancer Mission. It is really my pleasure to welcome you to the EU Missions and Cross-Cutting Activities Info Days. Now, these 2 days are dedicated to EU missions and cross-cutting activities, and they are not only a way to get information on new upcoming calls, but also an opportunity to mobilize multiple stakeholders and engage with citizens and end users. Following the Info Days that took place in January of last year, I am excited to share some new developments related to EU missions and the cross-cutting activities. Earlier this month, the Commission adopted an amendment to the Horizon Europe Work Programme 23-24 to include 2024 budget for missions and for a number of cross-cutting and cross-cluster activities. For the first time, this work programme part is not only focusing on EU missions, but also includes the cross-cluster activities of Destination New European Bauhaus, in addition to a limited number of cross-cutting activities. I can assure you that there are many interesting calls to consider applying to. As you probably know, last July, the European Commission published a communication with the first assessment of EU missions. The assessment confirmed the relevance of EU missions as an important tool in the Horizon Europe and the Commission's toolbox. EU missions are supporting EU priorities such as the European Green Deal, the Europe Fit for the Digital Age, and also the Beating Cancer Plan. The assessment confirms that the EU missions are on track to achieve their goals by 2030. As with any new instrument, they have needed to overcome challenges inherent to adopting new approaches. The communication therefore also identified a number of challenges that EU missions are facing and where more will need to be done to allow them to fulfill their potential. We continue to work, of course, on them to progress and experiment with new approaches to reach our goals by 2030. Only 2.5 years after their launch, the EU missions have mobilized an incredibly diverse range of stakeholders: member states, associated countries, regions, cities, ports, businesses and communities, universities and more. The European Commission encourages this cross-border, cross-sectoral and cross-institutional coordination and collaboration, and it is quite impressive to see what the ongoing projects are indeed accomplishing. For instance, did you know that the EU missions have dedicated implementation platforms and national hubs? If not, I invite you to take a closer look at their websites to follow the latest developments, to get information about ongoing activities, and to find additional opportunities on how to participate in the EU missions. We need all hands on deck. All 5 EU missions have developed a strategic agenda and put in place governance structures to support their implementation, including the alignment with other EU-level instruments and with national and regional strategies and policies. We are continuing to create a wide portfolio of actions and projects. In the 2024 calls, you will find opportunities to further build on this systemic thinking. In addition, the European Union wants to put the new European Bauhaus, or the NEB, on a stable footing going forward as a self-standing facility. An intermediary step is needed to develop the NEB initiative in this sense. The Destination New European Bauhaus in the missions work programme is this intermediary step. It will build on past NEB activities, calls and experiences so far, and anchor the NEB values of sustainability, aesthetics and inclusion in research and innovation, paying special attention to the green transition at the level of neighbourhoods and communities. You will hear more about this tomorrow. In addition, The cross-cutting activities in this work program parts include actions of a horizontal nature as they have an impact on all work program parts. They are formulated in response to new societal needs or opportunities and aim to experiment with new approaches. For example, they aim to mobilize the power of social innovation or to enhance the role of universities and education establishments in the creation of local innovation activities. So, fasten your seatbelt and stay tuned for this session. With this last amendment of the Work Programme 2023-24, we are reinforcing the impetus to address, through research and innovation, our greatest societal challenges with new and innovative tools and calls. Now, let me give you a summary of the programme for the event. Today, we start with a session on the Adaptation to Climate Change mission. After lunch, we have a session on the A Soil Deal for Europe mission, followed by the Restore Our Ocean and Waters by 2023 mission. Tomorrow, you will be able to attend 4 thematic sessions covering the Cancer mission, the 100 Climate Neutral and Smart Cities by 2030 mission, Destination New European Bauhaus, and 1 session on the cross-cutting activities. It is indeed very difficult to predict what the future will look like in 2030, but the EU missions and New European Bauhaus give us the opportunity to actively participate in shaping it, and that's why they deserve our continued support. We hope you will find these info days useful. While this is a digital event, keep in mind that you still have the opportunity to be interactive. We encourage you to ask questions via Slido. Lastly, we would like to invite you to embrace EU missions, New European Bauhaus and the cross-cutting activities, and to contribute to the goals on the ground. We are counting on you to achieve the ambitious targets. We will now give the floor to the first session, Adaptation to Climate Change mission. Thank you very much and enjoy the event.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this session. Thank you to Joanna Drake for the introduction. And I'm Philippe Tulkens, head of unit in a unit called Climate and Planetary Boundaries in DG Research Innovation. And I'm also the Deputy Mission Manager for the mission on adaptation to climate change. For this session, the structure is very simple and straightforward. First, a short update of the mission itself, the presentation of the topics, a session on question and answers, and the conclusion. But before, just to know who is in the room, there is a Slido poll that is open. Some have already registered and indicated the institution that they represent or that they belong to, and I invite you to fill it in. If you need a reminder on how to do this, just go to www.slide.do and insert hashtag EU-MISS-cross-info-days to join the event. And then you select the room, Adaptation to Climate Change mission. So let's start with the state of play on this mission on adaptation to climate change. Of course, adaptation to climate change is a must, and the mission now operates at its cruising speed towards its objective, which are to inform all citizens about the risks faced through climate change, of course, and to help with 150 regions at least in their pathways towards climate resilience. The mission has a third objective, also to implement 75 large-scale demonstrators across Europe within the 10 years period of the activities of the mission. We have a very good participation to the mission. Next slide, please. With 311 signatories of different size and different locations, of course. And you can also see on the portal the regions that are participating, the ones that are closest to you or to your interests. And also you can look at the information that they provide on the risks that they wish to address through the mission. Next slide. The mission portal is indeed a key element to communicate on the realizations of the mission, and I invite you to have a look at it. It's hosted on the EEA, European Environmental Agency website. Please have a look, and also please don't hesitate to provide feedback on the user-friendliness of the portal, whether you find the information that you need, because the goal through this portal is to serve all the participants to the missions from wherever they come from, research institutions, private entities, academia, or the regions themselves who are the first clients of the mission. And therefore, please have a look and report to us and to the mission implementation platform on what are your needs that perhaps is not fully addressed through this portal. Next slide. So we have a new interactive platform for the community of practice. This is accessible to all. It's called Futurium. And of course, these slides will be available on several platforms. So you can click on the slides and register to the platform, which is expected to be more user-friendly than the one we have been using currently. And there is a special space for the mission signatories who can register. And please use this platform to exchange with your peers and to strengthen the collaborations amongst the participants. Next slide. We are also present on social media, on X, on LinkedIn. The first thing I would invite you to do, if you don't know the mission very well, is to register to the mission newsletter. It's a monthly newsletter that provides information on progress in the mission and helps you in also relating to other organizations. And you can also access the website on the Commission website as a complement to the mission portal, which is the cornerstone for informing the participants to the mission. Next slide, please. So now, after a few years of operation, we have several projects active and very active. I would like to congratulate them for their dynamism and interest in this new type of activities. We have the mission implementation platform itself that is at the center of the activities and links the participants, the regions and local entities with the projects and collects the demand and with the supply of services. We have the project Climax, the project Pathways to Resilience, the project Resist, R4C, and other projects that you see on this slide that are absolutely instrumental in the deployment of the mission. And I invite you to have a look at what these projects do, what type of services they offer, and see whether these match with your intentions in the mission. While you will think about applying to the calls that will be described in a few minutes, please first look at what the current projects are doing, who is doing them, and then you can refine your thinking and suggestions to make sure that what you are proposing is not already covered by others and is therefore progressing innovation in the field. Next slide. So, with regard to the call itself, you see on the slide that it opened on 17th of April, but actually it's 24th of April, and it will close on the 18th of September. These dates are, of course, very important, but you have enough time to mobilize your peers and prepare a sound proposal, and those will be, I'm sure, of excellent quality. The opportunities through the missions are quite unique, and I wish to recall that the mission allows to bring in partners that usually don't participate to classical calls of Horizon Europe. For instance, municipalities, regional authorities can be partner of a project in Horizon Europe and therefore recruit staff to work on the mission. And such staff would not be necessarily active on research activities, because we know, of course, that regions are not doing this type of activity. But of course, the people in the municipalities, in the regions, are fundamental to deploy the activities of the mission and therefore reach the objective of the mission itself. Another feature that I wish to recall here is that the calls of Horizon Europe are, of course, at the source of the funding of the mission, but it's not the only source. If you read about the mission concept, the goal is to mobilize funding from different funding programs, be it European funding programs, but also national funding programs or regional funding programs. And this complex constructions that is being called upon is necessary because the money coming from Horizon Europe will certainly not suffice to fulfill all the objectives of the mission. So therefore, think at applying to Horizon Europe mission calls, but also at how these activities would be additionally supported through interventions from other EU funding instruments. Next slide. And this will be on the slide just to give a very quick overview on where we stand. So 9 topics for an overall amount of nearly 124 million euros. Coordination and support action, some research and innovation action, and some demonstration activities. So a diversity of activities covering all the 3 main objectives of the mission, difference on the ground for the regions and for the local authorities. Next slide. We will go for the first presentation, which will be given by my colleague Federico Porra. He belongs to DG Research Innovation, but we operate in the mission as a joint team with DG Clima. This is also an innovative way of working in full cooperation and synergy between services from the Commission, and it works very well. And Federico is a very strong actor in the field. We are very happy to listen to the presentation of the first topic you will present us. Thank you.
Thank you, Philippe. Great to be here. Let's start with the first topic that is, as you can all read, bringing available and actionable solutions for climate adaptation to the knowledge of the regions and local authorities. I would say, let me first start by mentioning that I would say the key word here is actionable solution. No, it concerns one of the what we can define added values of mission adaptation. That is, of course, not simply testing and deploying solutions, but also facilitating the replication or scale up of the said solution that are deemed, of course, successful. So to do so, you clearly need capacity to harvest the wealth of solutions that are tested in mission adaptation. And this is really what this coordination and support action is all about. The project stemming from this topic will crucially complement and reinforce the mission implementation platform. So let's start from, of course, the budget. We estimate a new contribution of 2 million euros for one project. And when it comes to the expected outcomes for this topic, you can see here that easy access to the information on the latest available solution on adaptation to climate change for regional local authorities is one of the main expected outcomes. And this means that the project stemming from this topic will need to analyze and produce multilingual communication products, services and activities to indeed feed and inform the regional and local authority, but also other mission actors, for example, the mission secretariat that can, of course, benefit from the work, to indeed have a better understanding on the solution available on adaptation to climate change in the context and beyond the mission, or at least in the umbrella of the mission, because, of course, when it comes to what was mentioned before by Philippe, the mission is also about leveraging a solution available through other funding programs, and this CSA project will also try to analyze and harvest the solution available out there so that they can also be exploited and synergized in the context of the mission. When it comes to specifically the mission, of course, we need to refer to the Committee of Practice, the place where still today and in the future we'll continue to discuss and share experiences and understanding about solutions for adaptation to climate change. In this sense, this project will indeed delve into what's happening in Committee of Practice in cooperation with the implementation platform to produce this communication product, informative products for the regions and local authorities. Another element that I think it's important to mention when it comes to the expected outcomes is that all these actions to indeed analyze and harvest those solutions can also look at increase and should also look at increase the understanding and the knowledge of the policy implication of those solutions. So, and this happens at the EU, at the national, the regional and local levels, with the idea, of course, of bridging and using also the mission as it actually is as a tool to support not only said solution, but also broadly speaking, policy innovation. Next slide, please. When it comes to the scope of this topic, I was mentioning before the fact that the text clearly states that the project stemming from the topic should support and closely cooperate with the mission implementation platform. The text actually mentions a formalization of such cooperation in the form of a memorandum of understanding to avoid, crucially, duplication and to make sure that the synergy actually would benefit both the implementation platform, the project, but most importantly, the regions and the mission per se. This, of course, in terms of cooperation, is not limited to the mission implementation platform, but also the other relevant existing platforms and initiatives. And we are singling out really the missions portal, Climate Adapt, managed by the European Environment Agency, but also other initiatives you will be able to read in the text of the topic. Another element that I wanted to mention here was the fact that the project stemming from this topic is also expected to identify and analyze and structure available solutions in the context of this topic. Last 2 points that I think it's important to mention. Indeed, there are different ways through which we can operationalize the multilingual products. One of them, and is stated in the topic, is through an inventory of solutions, very operational, which is aiming at facilitating the regions and local authorities' understanding of the same solution. So there is not only an inventory, but also an analysis on how those solutions can actually support and can be implemented by the regions. And again, I was mentioning in the slide before, those good practices, there might be good practice that can merit particular attention by the EU policymakers in view of strengthening the policy innovation in the coming cycle. And in this sense, the proposal is expected to have a dedicated task to make this happen in terms of feedback, in a broader feedback to policy action in the context of this topic. For the moment, I would say we can stop with this topic and move to the next one. But of course,
I interrupt you just because I forgot actually to remind the audience that they are invited to place in Slido their questions for the Q&A session that comes after, and it gives you an opportunity to breathe. And so to place your question, so you stay in the same page on Slido. Please indicate the number of the topics that your question relates to. It will facilitate its treatment. And you can also vote on the questions. So we will take as many as we can during the Q&A session. This is an open process during all the presentations. So I invite you to note them down on Slido as the presentations go on. So now, Federico, if you can present the second topic, which is about bringing together national level and the engaged regional and local levels, the multi-level governance, which is the key feature of the mission.
Thank you, Philippe. I also had the chance to drink some water, so the pause was welcome on my side. Indeed, the second topic is about mostly and most importantly the key word that you can see here, multi-level governance. So the idea here is really to bring together also the national angle as a key level, as a key element and platform to help make a mission approach a success. As in the case of the previous topic, the successful proposal is expected to cooperate and complement and reinforce the mission implementation platform, which currently does not include indeed a dedicated budget to directly animate discussions of the actions at the national level. Let me also mention that in doing so in fulfilling the objectives of this topic, the winning proposal will also directly address one of the untapped potential that were identified by the Commission's communication in July on the EU mission that was mentioned before by Joanna Drake, in the sense that it will also indeed help us to bring together the national angle. That is one of the key added value that the mission can bring indeed in terms of multi-level governance. Budget is a total, we expected a total of 4 million euros. One project we expect to stem from this topic. Again, a coordination support action. In terms of the expected outcome, I mentioned before indeed that the national level will be further engaged and mobilized to contribute to the objective of the mission, but also, crucially, can also benefit in a better way from the mission, really connecting the two aspects of the EU level, but also the national and regional and local level. At the same time, by creating this multi-level governance, we also aim to bring the EU mission's knowledge beyond the club and the set of regions and local authorities that are directly working with the EU mission's adaptation activities, also to the, of course, knowledge of those that are not directly participating, with the idea indeed to multiply the added value of the mission also beyond our set of, for example, chair destinatories of those participating to our mission projects. How this will work in practice? I would say through two main axes of action. Number one, the main expected outcome would be the creation of a set of so-called national adaptation hubs that will indeed bridge the gap between the EU and the regional and local level. Those national adaptation hubs are supposed to be one per member states. And of course, as I will mention later on, will be the main actors to really make come to life the multi-level governance. At the same time, to give, I would say, substance and activities to the adaptation hubs, we also included in the topic a reference to a robust twinning scheme, grouping of regions and local actors that are facing similar challenges to ensure that, of course, this peer learning and cross-fertilization of experiences can benefit the regions and local authorities, but also including the national level, and will feed indeed the experience in the context of the national adaptation hubs. Next slide, please. Before I go to this slide, let me just mention that in the case of the previous topic, but also in the first topic, regions and local authorities are the target group of the proposed activities, and as such, they are not expected to participate directly to the consortium, but they should receive the services by this project, but also the project stemming from the previous topic. That was, I think, an important element to refer to. At the same time, when it comes to the scope, the project, it's written in the text, could provide direct financial support in form of grants to a maximum of one entity in each member state to facilitate the creation and the animation of the National Adaptation Hub. What are those hubs, or how have they been defined in the text? They have been defined as a task force or a working group that is composed by the relevant contact points from each level of governance in a specific member state that is relevant in each individual country. So to make it tailored for what is important and needed for a specific member state. Of course, this includes also existing actors from the national contact points to other existing actors at the national level. It's important also here to mention that we are aware, of course, that there are some member states where some what we might call here adaptation hubs or other national structure already exist. In such case, the project will support and help those existing structures to be integrated better in the EU mission adaptation governance and therefore benefit from the mission. For the others, we identify the national contact point as light, agile, and flexible structure, indeed, as I mentioned before, to be tailored to the national context. Those hubs will help foster knowledge and solutions, so there can be an avenue and a fora for discussion on specific topics, either those already discussed at the EU level to bring into the national context, but also introducing new topics that might be, for example, interesting to target at the national level, from the social angle of adaptation, to financing, to, for example, engagement with private actors. These are some of the examples that are already included in the text. And in this sense, the cooperation with the previous projects from Clima 0101 that I mentioned before will be key to indeed receive the solution harvested by that projects. Finally, 2 points. The adaptation hubs will also have the role to feed and contribute to countries and regional local authorities' efforts that are related to the adaptation objective in the climate law. Namely, they can also be used as a way to gain knowledge on how policy innovation can help the implementation of the climate law, namely Article 5 for adaptation to climate change. Finally, as I mentioned before, the structural grouping scheme, the twinning scheme, will be an organic component of this multi-level governance. And we mentioned here, this will also include disseminated emissions knowledge beyond the missions regions, meaning, for example, pairing regions that participate in the mission with regions and local authorities that are not participating directly in the EU mission, but would benefit, of course, to receive the peer learning from them. I would say that for the moment, I would stop here for these 2 topics, and I will give the floor back to Philippe while waiting for the Q&A.
Thank you very much, Federico. It's not very easy to present such a complex topic issue in a few minutes. I wish to remind all the participants to the session that the official text is the reference for the calls. Here, what we are trying to do is to present the text without interpreting. And if there is any doubt or any discrepancy or perceived discrepancy between both, it is the text that counts. And that sets the norm. This is important. And as you saw on governance, multi-level governance, the motto of the EU is united in diversity. There's a big diversity. But this is also what we are learning about in this mission, is that there are very different models of governance that can be quite effective and efficient. And these type of topics and the work of the researchers and other actors in this area can help all the member states in reflecting on their governance and how to optimize it. So going further, now we will go to another set of 3 topics with Sophie Berger. Sophie Berger also belongs to the same unit, the unit I'm heading, Climate and Planetary Boundaries. She's policy officer, and she will present 3 topics on research and innovation action that boost applied research in strategic areas with local implementation of results. So let's start with the first topic, Sophie, about output indicators, mostly to put it in a few words, but you will expand.
Yes, so thank you very much. So the third topic of the 2024 call for the mission on adaptation is on outcome indicators. It's about developing and refining outcome indicators to measure progress on climate resilience at national, regional, but also local levels. And that includes knowledge and feedback developed from the mission. And so here, the idea behind the topic is that we're in a context where climate impacts are becoming increasingly visible, and it's been made clear by the IPCC, amongst other reports, that we need to ramp up efforts. But at the same time, we're facing an issue with a lack of indicators on adaptation outcomes that are hampering the measurement of progress. And so with this topic, we're really trying to address that. And we have a budget of a bit more than 2,097 euros. And we expect to fund one project, which is a research and innovation action. And so with this project that we are funding, we expect to better capture the state and the progress of adaptations in Europe. We also hope to better measure the effectiveness of adaptation measures and adaptation solutions. And with that, we really hope to accelerate the implementation of adaptation efforts by making the benefits of adaptation action much more visible and demonstrating the positive effects of adaptation policies. And so really the goal of this topic is really to strengthen the capacity of Europe and the knowledge and the involvement of stakeholders in the monitoring, evaluation and learning opportunities from adaptation policies. And the idea with this topic is really to start with what's already out there, what's already existing, and expand and build on that. And so in terms of scope, there are a couple of elements that I like to highlight, but it's much more detailed in the text. But first, we would like the proposals to develop an integrated framework for monitoring, evaluation, and drawing lessons of implemented adaptation measures. This framework needs to be based on outcome indicators, so not output as it is most of the time the case or even process. So it needs to be based on outcomes. It needs to consider maladaptation. It should be relevant for all parts of Europe, so with common future, but at the same time, it should take into account the fact that different parts of Europe have local or regional specificities. So it needs to be flexible enough to harmonize on the one hand, and then flexible on the other hand to take that into account. And then the last point about this framework is that it needs to contain various data, qualitative and quantitative data, but methods. So it needs to be diversified. So that is the first point. The second point that is important for this topic also is that we would like the proposals to develop or refine Earth observation indicators for adaptation, and that comes together with a set of visualization tools. The third point that is important for this topic is also that the data collection here set in the framework should be complemented with citizen science. And citizen science, we define that in the text as any activity that involves the public in scientific research. And this is a way to bring together the science, the public, and society more generally to increase the impact of the research. The fourth point that I would like to mention is that we would like the proposal to develop a strategy to visualize and communicate the benefits of adaptation efforts, and this should be made for various stakeholders. And we would also like those projects to come up with training and dissemination material in different languages. So this is, in a nutshell, what we expect from this topic on outcome indicators. And it's really trying to connect the dots between the research and creating something that science tells us is a gap and connect that to local needs. And so we can move on to the second topic of today. The second topic is also a research and innovation action. For this topic, 04, we have a budget of 8 million euros and we expect to fund 2 projects. And this one is about researching the complex interplay between the climate and biodiversity crisis towards a more systemic approach and solutions. And here the context is that we know that climate change and biodiversity loss are 2 interdependent crises. They are complex and they have compounding and cascading effects. And so we know, research tells us that we need a more systemic approach to tackle both those issues. And this is really what this topic is about. And the goal of this topic is twofold. The first one is to better understand the interactions between the 2 crises. So this is really about research. But then the second one is to drive action. And it's about building tools and designing solutions to really break the silos between the biodiversity and the climate change communities and really find solutions that minimize the trade-offs. And so we expect, as an outcome of those projects, to have the research community that is better able to assess and model the impacts of climate and biodiversity crisis in a more systemic way. We also expect public authorities to have information that helps them to prioritize action that both increase resilience and restore biodiversity, but also that as a result, they are better able to prioritize investment and select really the effective options to reduce the risk. And then the fourth outcome that we expect from that topics is to have improved regional and risk assessment that really capture more effectively the interdependency between the biodiversity crisis and the climate crisis, including cascading and compound risks. So this is really the essence of the topic, and now I would like to come to highlight a few points of what we expect from the proposal to have. The first one is that we expect the proposals to investigate case studies, both on the climate, on the effect on climate, on biodiversity, but also other parts of the other sectors, and also the effect of biodiversity on the climate. And so this is really the first one. The second one is that we would like the proposal to identify the co-benefits of implementation of nature-based solutions, both for adaptation and biodiversity. The third aspect that we would like is also that the proposal identify and evaluate the negative impacts of adaptation options and maladaptations on other sectors, and conversely, the negative impacts of actions to restore biodiversity on climate. So really, this is about the systemic and really considering those two crises together. And then if we go even a bit further in that thought process, we would like the proposals to look into the combination of climate adaptation and biodiversity action and see how they reinforce or weaken each other, and see if the combined effects of the actions differ from, if they are taken together, if it differs from different actions taken in silos. And then the last one is that we would like, and this is to bridge the gap between research and really concrete actions, we would like the proposal to provide concrete policy recommendations on how to address biodiversity and climate crisis more systemically and to minimize those trade-offs. A couple of points that are not on the slide but are in the text here, and you will see that with the topic 10 that is going to be presented by my colleague Irene, but it's really important given the similarities between the two topics to try and connect the proposal funded by topic number 4 with topic number 10. And also we would like the proposals to engage, to find credible ways to engage with public administrations at various levels to really go in the favor of what is on the last bullet, which is provide concrete policy recommendations. So this is it for topic 4. And that leads me to the last research and innovation actions of this goal. And this is, again, a topic with a budget of 8 million euros, and we expect to fund 2 projects. And it's, again, a topic that is trying to address climate adaptation in a bit more systemic way. But the topic is different this time, because this one is about transformative approach and how to build local capacity to implement adaptations. And for this one, the context of this topic is really that adaptation, we know that it should be transformative. So it means that we need to change fundamental attributes of socio-ecological systems. This is not coming from us. This is IPCC telling us that, because the scale of the challenge is so big that we need transformative change. But at the same time, we observe on the ground that a lot of the adaptation actions are really fragmented. And to take an example, we have high-level targets for just resilience, but at the same time, they are not necessarily connected with local implementation of adaptation. And really, the goal of this topic is to integrate better the mission and adaptation more generally in regional economic, socio-economic policy, for instance, just transition. What we hope to achieve with those projects under on this topic is to first foster societal transformation to help transform toward a more just and climate resilient society. We would also like public authorities to have an improved capability in assessing the joint impact of climate adaptation measures, but also regional transformative approaches. We would like to have improved knowledge on how to integrate adaptation measures with regional transformative approach in a more systemic way, but also zoom out a little bit and see the impacts on a higher level than just what is happening on the local level. And then the last one, it's to have, thanks to this topic, we really hope to have a better understanding of the mechanism behind transformation of social and economic system to make sure that we reach climate resilience. So if we move to the next slide on the scope, I'd like to highlight a couple of elements that are in the text. So the proposal should develop knowledge on how to integrate adaptation measures with regional transformative approach. And this is also trying to mainstream adaptation and tap into regional innovation policy or smart specialization strategy. The proposal should also find ways to understand the triggers and the barriers for behavioral change and on different, for the citizen, but also different economic systems. And this is linked to the just transformation. The proposal should also develop method and tools to promote win-win solutions that are beneficial to both adaptation and socioeconomic activities. The proposal should also be presented and tested in at least 3 regions, local authorities or communities, together with their neighbors. So it's really the idea that to break the silos and go beyond what's happening on just a local level, but and also linked to the policies. So this is at the heart of the mission to have different actors together. So this is also written down in this topic. And in this same line of thought, it should assess the impact on the neighboring regions of transformative approaches. A couple of elements that I like to highlight also here is that this is clearly a topic that has a very strong component of social science and humanities. So social scientists are key to the mission and they are key to achieve adaptation, and we would welcome their participation there, and more than participation really, they should be a driving force for this topic. And I'd like to highlight that this topic is also very linked to topic number 8 that is going to be presented also by my colleague Irene.
Excellent. You see how complex these issues are between climate, biodiversity, systemic solutions. This is why we call in the best brains and the best actors of transformation to submit proposals. I often mean researchers or people in professional entities who ask, how can I make my work more useful and with tangible impacts on the ground? Through the mission, you can do that. So I invite you to apply with excellent proposals and relate to the regions, the local entities that are the closest to you or closest to your interests or your expertise, to see what are their needs and to, of course, make proposals that are of the highest relevance possible. Going further in the applied side of the activities, now for the demonstration activities, we have Irene Bonvizzuto. She's the head of the Mission Secretariat. She is working in DG Klima, and she will present 3 topics on demonstration activities. 4 topics, sorry. One more. Each speaker had 1 more topic. And Irene, the floor is yours on demonstration activities.
Thank you very much, Philippe. And indeed, I will have to take you through 4 topics. So I would like to upfront say something which I think it's very important, because I will avoid to repeat that on every single topic. But please take note also of the codes of the topic, because I will highlight indeed what is different between one and the other, and will be very relevant also for putting your questions, as Philippe said before. In this case as well, obviously, what counts is the published text. You will see that actually the published text is much longer than what we can present now here, due also to time constraints. So obviously always refer to that. What is very, very important to know is that indeed the demonstration topics do all have a very specific characteristic, because it's very much in the spirit of the mission to help to bring the knowledge down to the regions and the communities to really help them to accelerate transformation on the ground, to really accelerate their climate preparedness. So to do that, actually, all demonstration topics have an obligation for the proposal to actually conduct to actually highlight where the demonstration will take place. And actually we are putting a very strong eligibility criteria there that the demonstration needs to take place in at least 3 different regions or communities or cities that have to be located in 3 different places, let's say 3 different member states, associated countries. So it's very important that indeed the demonstration takes place in different places in Europe, in Europe and associated country. Let me put a disclaimer there. First of all, again, the charter signatories are ideal places for ideal bed test places where those demonstrations can take place, because those regions and local authorities have already engaged on climate adaptation. They are really calling for accelerating their transformation towards climate preparedness, but they are not the only places where those demonstrations can take place. So any region and any community in the member states and associated countries is eligible to participate to those projects. But obviously, if you need to choose where to go and who are the most sensitive, be informed that actually signing the charter, those regions already manifested a strong interest, and probably through the social media and the tools that the mission is also deploying is also an easy way to get to know who they are and to see also how to reach out to those. The other element which is common to all the demonstrations is indeed about not only demonstrations should take place in those 3 places, but very much again in the spirit of the mission, trying to bring the knowledge available to all interested parties and all the partners in need. We are also asking that actually replicating regions and communities are also already introduced at the stage of the proposal. Those are actually places where the lessons learned will be replicated, will be totally, partially, with some adjustment if needed, will be eventually leveraging the same knowledge and the same experience for also accelerating transformation on the ground in those other places. So all the demos will have actually this requirement to have those places already indicated at the stage of the proposal, having partners in the proposal, not to conduct the work itself of the replication, but rather to prepare the ground and to prepare what will be needed also eventually after the conclusion of the project to actually take forward what the first 3 demonstration places have been demonstrating. So I think this is a very important, statement. I'm not going to repeat it for every single topic, but it's very important that is taken note of. The other thing that I'm not gonna repeat for every other topic is all the projects are expected to collaborate through the platform. All the projects are expected to collaborate to the community of practice. So again, those social tools and social media that we have put available, including the platform and the community of practice facilitation of exchange of best practices. So those are not things which I'm not going to repeat for the sake of time, but are very much stressed in every test of all those demonstration projects. Now we go one by one to the 6 topics, and as it was said before, demonstration activities are really where the bulk of the support, the budget, actually the most interesting part, the budget for Work Programme 24, that's really where the bulk is, and is also where the most numerous part of those projects that we expect is going to be. I think we said in total we expect 19 projects. 12 of those are expected to be actually demonstration projects, so innovation actions as a kind. So let's go one by one. Start here from what is coded as topic 06. I think it will be good enough if in putting your question you at least, maybe you don't write the entire of it, but at least put please 06 if you want to refer a question to this topic. So what this topic concerns is the demonstration of approaches to improve bankability of solutions by design, addressing co-benefit mitigation and adaptation. Now, where does it come from? what we have seen and what is evident is that there is financing for climate adaptation in the market. However, so far, and the EIB, the European Investment Bank, is telling us, so far, not many projects, a pure project for adaptation, have been actually easy to find their way into the market. And this is probably due to the fact that bankability is still looked at as a difficult criteria to match for the adaptation project. So what we're looking at here is really how to improve the way bankability of adaptation solution is looked at. So really consider how to look at from different maybe criteria so that private and public investors can really come and conclude that actually it's worth to invest in preparedness rather than on repairing damage after it happened. So what actually we hope to get through this project is actually that the private investors are directly participating in the mission. I think this is one of the ambition in general of the mission, of bringing all the relevant actors together. And really, when we talk about bankability and investment, we really believe this is also the place where private investors can come and actually can contribute to the project themselves. And this is also a way to increase co-financing of, to the huge challenge that climate preparedness actually requires. The other thing that we hope to see is that the region and the local authorities, obviously being the place where the demonstration takes place, they should also be, they are expected to be engaged in the first place, also in terms of keeping those solutions in place after the end of the project. So it's really, again, a direct engagement of region and local authorities, and I do believe we have a few also watching at us, and again, this is a first step, probably also through the different means of the platform, they can be engaged, and is really a way to keep them responsible also for maintaining those solutions beyond the time of the project. Now, going to the scope, what we're really after with this demonstration, again, quite a number of elements are in the text, which is much longer, obviously, what I can present here. But we're really looking for some financially valuable cases. So really, we would like to see some example or identification of some climate projects where looking at climate adaptation together with other benefit can really make it, let's say, simpler to secure financing streams. We are giving some example, for instance, on combination of climate adaptation with climate mitigation projects, which typically are probably also a way, we are giving some example of how climate mitigation elements can sometimes help to also materialize the saving earlier. I'm thinking energy efficiency projects, or how can it also help to have a better stable projection of what is the return on the investment, when obviously when we talk climate adaptation, we also talk about different possible scenarios of the future. So that is also sometimes one of the challenges. So the idea here is really that the solutions that will be developed and tested will need to actually deliver at once on the element of increasing the resilience, together with contributing to other dimension of climate. And indeed, in there, we are really thinking of reducing carbon emission, really going for climate neutrality as one of the areas. We are probably combining projects on energy efficiency, renewables. Just to give some example that we're quoting in the call text, can really be a way to look at those solutions at once. The idea there is, as I said, that regions and local authorities will be the place where the demonstration take place, but it will also be important that in the consortia, the business and the investor partners and the private actors are interested in the project, so they are also involved in the project, because that will be also, again, a way to secure the investment and make sure that the investment are, let's say, the solutions once demonstrated remain in operation after the duration of the project. I didn't explicitly mention the number of projects we're expecting there, but the budget we have put available and the size of project we have estimated should make possible to finance 3 projects under this topic 06. Moving now to topic 07, and this is again demonstration project. So it's again a type of action we're envisioning here is an innovation action. Again, we are expecting to be capable of financing free projects because we have again estimated a certain size of the project which will allow for free projects. And what we are trying to look for here under topic 07 is demonstration of solutions specifically for rural area and small and medium-sized population. Now, what is behind this specific target? The reason why we are targeting rural area and small and medium-sized communities is because we understand that actually, first of all, they tend to have much less public, much less capacity in their public administration. They are typically smaller in size, so they don't have typically personnel dedicated to climate adaptation. But on the side of that, they typically have wide territories to care for or they are responsible for. And those territories are also quite diverse, sometimes in terms of climate risk that they face. So they're really a bit the unlucky one, let's say, that actually they have big challenges vis-a-vis small capacity. And we really thought that actually, again, in the spirit of the mission to really look and support the diversity of European and associated country cases, we really think small and medium-sized communities should really be catered for specifically. And for that reason, actually here the expected outcome is very much that they will be able to improve their capacity. I mean, the capacity of those small and medium-sized and rural authorities will be improved, and they will be able actually to implement the solution themselves on their territories. So with that objective in mind, what we're asking to the project in this case. When we go to the scope, there are some specific elements that we have actually been highlighting there. First of all is again a question of identifying approaches. And again, when we say approaches and solutions, I want to underline that they not necessarily are only technical solutions. They can be a combination of technical, social, business, all the different elements could be part of it, part or a predominant part or integral part of it. So those are really approaches and innovative solutions that actually do increase the resilience of the medium and local authorities, so really helps them to increase their preparedness towards what they are the local risks. So again, it's very much a question of being also Europe being very diverse, the potential climate risk being very diverse. So those solutions potentially should be able to cater for also a variety of climate risks. Typical of the mission, we are also asking that the nature-based solution should be explored as priority. This we have done for the past years. It's very much in the core and the remit of what the mission does. So this is really where we want to actually focus. What we do hope is actually that what we expect actually is that the proposal will also try to look into how to improve the skill gaps. I mean, what I mentioned before, we really believe it's question also the local authorities do not have yet the skill to actually fully assess the climate risk they have to face and fully design the plans for it, or even to identify the solution. So the projects, the proposal there should also have specific consideration on how to improve the skill gaps. So really not only to develop the solutions and to identify the solutions, but actually pair them with the skills that are needed to then implement them and make sure that in-house the local authorities will actually will have actually strengthened their skills. We do understand, and again, here we are talking Horizon Europe, obviously we have excellence as one of the typical criteria that will be used to actually select the proposal, and obviously this is probably quite far today from what the small and the medium-sized local authorities or the rural authorities are, let's say, possibly familiar with. So obviously, it's part of the mission work also to try to bring those actors much closer to the research performers. It's clear that the research performers and the brilliant academia and research performers could have a leading role there. But here the request is actually that the proposal will also include a specific consideration in how to bring the relevant actors on the ground into the consortia. So whether they're going to be directly into the consortium or at least their needs need to be reflected, I think this is really the very important point, because it's clear that there need to be a bridge needs to be built between the research community and the final user of that knowledge on the ground. So I think this is very important to underline. Now, moving to the next topic, which is codified as 08. So this is, again, a demonstration project. We're really, again, looking for a demonstration project. So the tool and type of action we envision is, again, an innovation action. The budget we have put available and the size of the budget we have estimated should allow to have 3 projects resource awarded under this topic. And what the focus is indeed now looking at another target group, a specific target group. So we're really looking for demonstration of approaches for regions and local authorities, but specifically on how to cater for the most vulnerable social groups. And this is very much in the spirit of just climate resilience. Now, what do we mean by that? Many evidences are out there that the climate risks are not equally spread over the population. Typically, the most vulnerable groups, and there are some examples in the call text, for instance, the elderly people or the youngest people, they tend to suffer the most, and in some cases they are also the most exposed to climate change. We have seen that the hospitals and the schools tend to be actually in places which also suffer the most of, for instance, of heat waves, or that the part of the population which could be considered the poorest part of the population might be living in flooded-prone areas. So these are just examples to show that the climate impacts are not equally spread, and sometimes actually the most vulnerable population are the most exposed, or the ones who can less afford to actually be prepared. So the idea is really here to target those groups, and is really to identify solutions that actually will foster the climate resilience in a just way. So really taking care of those vulnerable groups. So the idea is really that the proposal will produce guidance for decision makers on how to make sure that the options they identify for their territories are equitable, and how actually can really be specifically catering for the needs of those vulnerable and marginalized groups. So if we go to the scope of what we are after here, it's again identify, develop, test, and demonstrate and solutions or actions, and again, not necessarily technical solutions. They could be very well be, and it's very clear in the call text, a mix of business, in social solutions, technological solutions, all the dimensions could be part of it. And they really have to address the specific needs of those vulnerable groups. So the idea is again that the region and the local authorities will be put into they will increase their capacity, let's say, to actually take care of consideration of age, health, socioeconomic status when they design their adaptation solutions for the climate vulnerabilities in their territories. So again, the target here is that the regional and the local authorities should be put into the leading part of the work. And again, they are to be directly involved in the development of those solutions. Again, we understand that bringing in the marginalized group or the most vulnerable group directly in the proposal might be quite a long bridge, let's say. It will be ideal to do that, but as a minimum, we are asking that actually the needs and the insights for that target group should be reflected into the co-design of the solution. So somehow the proposal will need to identify ways to make sure that they bring in the needs of that target group, and they make sure that those needs are known to the regional and local authorities when they design and identify the adaptation solutions that they intend to implement. So this is for a project, for a proposal topic coded 08. Now we move to the last one, which is coded 09. And this is indeed the topic that makes the peer with the topic 04, mentioned before by my colleague Sophie. So under this topic, again, we do expect demonstration actions, demonstration projects, so innovation action. We have put the budget available, and the size of the budget we estimate capable of financing probably 3 projects. And the idea is very much to go far beyond, you will see a lot of this wording repeated in the call text, far beyond sectorial approach. So it's very much a systemic and cross-sectorial solutions that are targeted here. And it's very much about the idea that there are cascading effects and compounding effects between one sector and the next one. So what the project and what we are trying to do with this is actually to make sure that the public administration is better aware and has better foresight capacity of how the different sectors are linked and how the trade-off that exists between one and the other, and how they can systematically prepare for the transformation. So this is very much the dimension there. It's actually the pair to the research and innovation action, with the idea that there are already some probably solutions out there. If we go to the scope, you will see that actually here the request for the proposal in the scope very much underlines that what is very important is indeed that it goes beyond theoretical understanding, is very much identifying the solutions and putting them on, again, demonstration on the ground. If we can move to the slide about the scope, indeed it's about integration of different elements. When we talk about different sectors, it's also very important that actually we combine. We also need to look beyond, the technological, digital, business, governance. All those elements need to be integrated in the solutions. And the idea is very much indeed that this, the impacts of climate impacts are wide-ranging, and therefore systemic approach is needed. So, as I said, it's really the going beyond the theoretical research and theoretical understanding, and very much into putting some tangible solutions on the ground, considering the trade-off and making sure that the choices are well thought through on minimizing the potential negative effect on other sectors. So the idea here is, again, because there are different sectors involved, that different value chain actors will need to be involved, and this is really important that the solutions do match, the proposal actually do bring innovation together with the final user of those solutions and the final, again, actors on the ground. I think one thing that is true for all the demonstrations, so for all the project we expect here, is that we do expect them to leverage knowledge already developed by previous projects. So indeed it's about turning that knowledge and the solutions already developed as fast as possible on tangible solutions to be brought to regional and local authorities. So I think with that we can close the overview of the 4 demos. Here it's a very nice summary table where we do see all what we have presented with the codes, the short titles, and you also see a summary of the type of action and the budget dedicated to each of those topics.
Congratulations, because it's not easy to present 4 topics in a row on such complex issue. So you see the volume and of opportunities is very high. This can really make a difference. I invite you to reflect and really look in detail on all the calls, on existing projects, what they are doing, and to look in detail on how the mission can go further in its accomplishments. Also, a very important point is that, in particular for the demonstration projects, it's crucial to propose activities that are eligible under Horizon Europe funding. So if you have doubts about that, please ask the experts, because we can fund through Horizon Europe demonstration activities, but there is a limit to what can be funded through Horizon Europe. And for activities that are not eligible under Horizon Europe, other EU funding schemes or national funding schemes are there to complement. And this is a strong invitation to look at what is the best funding scheme for each activity that could be deployed and proposed. It's a complex issue, but it's a key one, and the mission will succeed only if the right combination of funding instruments is used in a smart way to progress in an innovative manner, in a systemic manner to address climate risks. Let's move on to the Q&A on Slido. I suppose you know how to connect to Slido. If not, you go to www.sli.do. You insert hashtag EUMIS-cross-info-days, and you select the room Adaptation to Climate Change mission. Please put the label of the number of the topic from 1 to 9 in your question, in the first characters that you insert on Slido. And we'll try to take as many questions as possible here. I will see them on the screen and we'll go one by one. But if your question was not properly answered, or you have additional questions, or you have any other question that you may not have asked here, please feel free to contact the Research Inquiry Service. There is a desk with a unique mailbox that you can address, and or address your national contact points on Horizon Europe in your member state or associated country. The colleagues in the member states are there also to help you and to guide you in navigating through the program so that you can apply in with a good understanding on what is expected, and therefore a higher likeliness of being selected, of seeing your proposal being selected. Let's now open the floor to the discussion. I will see on the screen the questions that are most voted on, and we'll proceed one by one. The questions will be allocated to the relevant colleagues who presented the topic. For the moment, I don't see yet the questions on my screen. If there are none, I can always invent questions. I'm quite good at that. So, let's start with the first one. Is it still possible for a city or region to still become charter signatory? Irene, do you want to answer, or I can answer if you wish, but please do.
At this stage, the charter, the engagement through the charter is closed. We actually launched it at the beginning of the mission, and we had huge return versus what we were expecting. We were targeting at least 150 regional and local authority. We had in a few months more than 300 subscribing. So due to also matching the effort and the support we can provide through the platform and through different specific actions of the mission towards the community that we have identified, adhering to the charter right now is not possible. Nevertheless, and maybe I did not underline it enough, it is not necessary to be a charter signatory to participate to the call. I'm already taking the next question there because I think it's very important to underline the demonstration places or the participation in the call do not need to be charter signatories. If you are a research and academia and you don't know where to look for partners, for regions and local authorities that actually could play the role of demonstration places, I think that our suggestion, but it's just our suggestion, is visit the mission website, visit the mission portal, use the channel of the mission, because clearly there is already a group of regional and local authorities that actually have call for, please help us to accelerate climate preparedness. So those are ideal candidates, but there is no legal obligation to work with them, and that the call are not restricted to those.
That's very important information, because we often get this question. The mission charter was a way to connect to the regions and local entities to test their interest for the mission. But we cannot discriminate and select only those. But as you understand, in this mission, if we work at the same time with all actors across Europe, we can't show whether the mission is capable of accelerating transformative change with those regions and entities. So we have limited the numbers of entities that could sign the charter, but there are other ways to join the mission and support the mission through the application in the calls, and being part of a consortium is one, and it's a very concrete way to join the mission and to support it. I take the next question on topic 7. Is it required to focus our approach and solution explicitly either on rural or small urban areas? Can we include demo cases for both of them?
Again, the disclaimer here is the published text is what counts. In the published text, at least what the page I'm here, but again, look, because the text is over different pages. What it says is or either one or, no, sorry, it's not exclusive in one or the other. It's actually, again, question of credibility. Can the proposal, with the amount of budget that will be available and with the resources that we'll be able to deploy, to actually identify reasonable demonstration places and replicator places in the minimum required free member states or associated countries to actually address the challenge. So if in some instances there are places where the rural area actually can also combine the small and medium-sized population, the call text as such does not forbid to do that. But again, it's a question of what will be then evaluated in terms of credibility of the work proposed vis-à-vis the resources deployed.
Thank you, Irene. I'll take the next question on topic 01 and 02. For these two calls, do you expect to have regions in the consortia? I can provide the answer, and you may compliment me or contradict me if I'm wrong. We don't expect or prescribe the colleagues who prepare a proposal choose the best way to reach the objective of the call. And it's quite clear that since the mission is about bringing transformative change to the ground, to the regions that are part of the mission and the local entities, you will conclude yourself whether it's better or not to have a region in or not. Some topics are more on the knowledge side, others are really on demonstration, but we have learned that for effective transformative change, involving the end users from the onset in the thinking is quite helpful.
Maybe I can also mention that, again, with the idea to always considering the text of the topic as the reference in this case, it is mentioned in the topic that regions and local authorities are the target group of the proposed activities for the two topics. And as such, strictly replying to the question, they are not expected to participate directly with the consortia, but they should receive the services by the successful projects. Of course, all the rest, it's of course applied to what Philippe rightly mentioned, but I think it was worth to specify, as we did during the presentation, the quote, the exact quote from the topic in this case.
Indeed, the text is the reference, and thank you for the accuracy of your reply. On topic 04, can case studies being investigated occur in non-signatory regions, or should focus be in signatory regions authorities only? Do you want to take it, or Irene? Yeah,
I can
Sophie?
take it.
Yes.
So this is very much in line with what has been said before, in the sense that signatories are an ideal test bed because they've shown willingness to work on adaptation and willingness to contribute towards the mission. But this is not limited to them, so it can be on other regions.
Thank you. Question on topic 07 and 09. Which solutions are we talking about? Mostly physical, technical, or also non-tangible solutions, governance, finance, capacity building, and so forth. Irene?
Yes. the call text normally says solutions could include technological, social, business-related aspects or combination of those. And again, goes to the fact that we don't expect technical solutions only will make it. In some cases, maybe this is possible, but in many cases, we have seen that actually when we tackle climate preparedness, there are other dimensions, including the social dimension, in particular for topic like the 07, which really looks into also the social aspects. So it's very important indeed to have combination of those. It cannot be excluded, only physical and only technical could be in the proposal, but again, the expert will actually evaluate how that could potentially deliver to the ambition and to the scope that has been called out there.
Thank you. Next question.
Yeah.
About topic 9, but it's...
Yeah, I think it's very detailed. I think it's in the call text, and the call text indeed do call for the activities are expected to be at TRL 6 to 7 at the end of the project, which is typical of what we indicate into innovation action, and I think also refers back to the question before of there are demonstrations that normally demonstration activities are paid under Horizon Europe, but not the deployment of off-shelf solutions. So I think obviously this is the reason why also the TRL level at the end of the project is expected to reach level 7, but we are not talking here off-the-shelf solution deployment, so always a component of innovative angle is important there.
Thank you. Let's go for the next question on topic 02. When talking about national hubs in member states, is it restricted to EU member states, or can associated countries also have hubs?
I'll mention into this, reply to this question. I think in this case, of course, the normal rules of Horizon Europe apply. So nowhere in the text you can find a specific reference to the fact that the services and the benefits of the national hubs and in general of the topic would only be referred to the member state. Of course, when it comes to the specific activities and the reference to the, let's say, policy elements in connection to the implementation of the climate law, in that case, of course, that would apply as a benefit specifically for the member states that are under the under the scope of the climate law. But in principle, the support and the national hubs can also apply for the associated countries for us in Europe.
Yeah, and I will add that the associated countries are very important in the mission. They provide also political support from outside the EU strictly, but their interest for the mission is appreciated because they also bring knowledge, they bring experience. I'm thinking about the support that we get also from Norway as one example, but there are other ones. And of course, they are aware that they are eligible to Horizon Europe funding, but not to funding that is strictly limited to EU member states. In other EU funding programs, the funding is limited to EU member states, but this associated countries to Horizon Europe know very well, and therefore they have to find specific ways to combine the funding from different instruments, EU and associated countries funding instruments, and instruments that they have at the national level. Again, is there an about topic 02, but about national adaptation hubs, is there a minimum optimum number of hubs? Yes, please.
I can reply. Yes, I can reply to reference the text. There is an optimum number of hubs indeed, if we can put it this way. In the topic and the text, it's written there will be one per country, and the idea here really is to avoid inefficiencies and try to tailor the hubs within the national context. To do so, the best way to do so, of course, is to have one hub that would be centralizing the services that the national hubs would give to the multi-level governance element of the topic. So it is one per relevant country.
Important question on topic 02, the twinning scheme. Is it similar to the one in the cities mission?
wouldn't know exactly specifically how the twinning scheme is similar to the one in the cities mission, because I'm not super familiar with the twinning scheme in the cities mission. But I think what we can mention here is within the context of the topic 02, you would find there in the text the fact that the national hubs and their specific twinning schemes that is going to be operationalized within those hubs can also address, it's written there, some elements when it comes to the nexus between adaptation mitigations on the basis of the type of multi-level governance that you would find in the specific country that we are talking about. So in a way, we cannot mention that it is similar as such, but we can certainly say that there might be some opportunities for connecting these exercises to a certain extent to what is already happening with the cities mission, of course, in a way of increasing synergies, also in the context of the multi-level governance with a system mission that is, of course, very much close to the broader objectives of the Green Deal and what we do in mission adaptation to climate change.
Thank you, Federico. This is a very important question, and I take the opportunity of this question to say two things. One, we will go in further details about this question, and the information will be placed on the funding and tenders portal, and we can do that because it's a very important question. As applicant or potential applicant to the program and to the calls, the synergies between the different missions is a very important issue to consider. In particular, synergy with the climate neutral and smart cities missions are, of course, very large. In urban areas, scientifically, it doesn't mean, and also politically, it doesn't make sense to address only mitigation without touching upon adaptation to climate change. This is just common sense. And therefore, it's really possible for urban areas to combine in their cities contracts provision on mitigation and on adaptation to climate change. And therefore, I invite you to also look, of course, at the cause of the cities missions and see whether there are synergies. The same applies also with other missions, such as the soil mission and the ocean mission, in particular for coastal urban areas, for instance, but also for rural areas. There are also synergies that can be exploited across the calls. And in the introductory speech, Johanna Drake referred to the new European Bauhaus. There are also large synergies with the European Bauhaus facility and their calls, and I invite you to have a look across all the relevant calls because that will increase the number of opportunities that you may seize, and also increase also the impact of the activities themselves if you are integrating all the relevant components of the calls that we are proposing. But we'll come back to this topic on twinning aspects. How can UK entities participate in these calls? Should they join other consortia? I can reply. The UK is an associated member to Horizon Europe, and they can participate like any other associated state. So welcome back to the UK with your experience and your knowledge. That is profound. On topic number 5. Are the 3 regions, localities mentioned supposed to be part of the consortia? So topic 5, that was among yours, Sophie?
Yes. So here the topic text states that the findings should be presented and tested in at least 3 regions, localities, communities, and that the training module should be developed for them. So that means that they do not necessarily need to be part of the consortia, but if you want to include them in your proposal, you can, of course.
Good. On topic 3, should the framework and indicators be designed for the European scale or at local indicators with transferability fine as well? Transferability fine. I don't know what that means.
it's not entirely clear what it means to me, but here it says that this should be relevant for national, regional, and local level. So that means that just local level is not good enough.
Let's put it this way. If you feel that you need to expand on this question, please contact the Research Enquiry Service or your national contact point. On topic 7, can regions which are in previously funded demonstration projects apply again with different communities involved and solutions demonstrated? Important question.
I think this is actually pairing maybe a question that I saw quickly passing as well. I think, you know, normally there is a rule. We cannot finance twice the same thing. So obviously a project cannot just come, a proposal cannot just repropose exactly what has been financed in the context of another project. But on the other side, what we're doing this year is very much targeting some specific communities. So if a region has participated in a previous project which had a broader focus or a sectorial focus, and now the same region comes back as demonstration place for a proposal which very much target what we are putting here as a target population, there is nothing against it. Clearly, it will be also in the merit of the proposal evaluation whether by any coincidence, it was exactly the same thing that was actually already financed, because we cannot actually finance twice the same. But said that, I think that will even show that indeed those regions in need and those regions that we probably have seen also eventually signing the charter and really calling for help and support in accelerating climate preparedness probably are very serious, because they really are in need on acting on different dimensions. So there is nothing against the same region coming back, as long as the project is different than what has been already financed. And here we are putting a different target, so it will be a bit surprising that the project looks exactly the same. I think maybe also there was a question before about maybe some clarification about those demonstration projects, what we're really after. And I think the question was reading whether publication of papers is enough or as an objective or as a result of the project, or whether some physical solutions need to be implemented. And let me clarify once forever. For the size of the project, for the size of the demonstration project that we're putting here, and the fact that these solutions need to be hitting the ground, really having the region and local authorities being empowered to keep the solution in operation after the project, it is very much a question of indeed seeing some solutions, being them physical or a combination of different elements, but those solutions need to be hitting the ground. So publication is allowed and will be welcome as dissemination of the experience, but publication of papers, it cannot be the only result of such project.
Thank you. I hope this is heard by many. The goal is to go beyond what research has been funding since 40 years in the Framework Program and Horizon Program. So therefore, we look at tangible issues. And of course, the scientific knowledge that is developed through this experiment should be subject of publication, because it enhances knowledge on transformative change and can be then replicated in other areas in Europe and elsewhere in the world. But it's clear that we want to go through the mission beyond the usual remit of what research and innovation has been doing so far. There's a question that is related to the community of practice. Is it open to all the EU mission projects? Of course, it's open to all. There is a specific section for the charter signatories, if I'm not mistaken. Federico, you will complement if need be. And should the ongoing mission project use it? I hope they do. And I invite you, if it's not the case, to really join the new platform, Futurium, and use it. Because with the former platform, and we can acknowledge this, I would say the layout and the platform was a bit outdated. This area is moving fast and progressing, and we hope that by using Futurium, we are prepared for the future, actually, and that this platform will be more popular than Circa BC, which was the platform previously used. Do you wish to add anything? Yes?
Yes, just to, of course, the reply, as you mentioned, is a big fat yes. Of course, mission project can and should engage with the committee of practice. You mentioned before that charter signatories will have a dedicated space in Futurium. Also, mission project will have a dedicated space. So all the missions projects are welcome to join, and there is where the discussion and the connection between the project, including in the context of the activities of the committee of practice, namely, for example, the thematic working groups, will continue to be and hopefully bring added value also for the projects themselves.
Excellent. Next question. Will there be a brokerage events to find partners? Yes, indeed. On the 21st and 22nd of May. So very soon. And this will be on the slide in the conclusion. And I will come back to that. But the answer is yes. And please book this in your calendars and attend, because you need to find the right partners. And you can start now. On topic number 6, what TRL should be the demonstration? I think we had this one already, didn't we?
Maybe it was not 06,
was
possibly it was another one, but okay. All the demonstration topics have been constructed quite similarly, so they all intend to bring the solutions to a TRL 6-7 by the end of the project. Again, moving a step farther in making the solutions proof, and possibly keeping that in operation after the end of the project. But again, being an innovative approach, so not just out-of-the-shelf deployment, because this goes beyond what Horizon Europe could finance.
Indeed, it should be eligible under Horizon rules as applied as possible. And therefore, it should be very innovative. And we are there to experiment, try. Sometimes we'll fail, and I hope we will succeed mostly. On topic 8, are you thinking of solutions in terms of change of welfare benefits and grants for vulnerable communities, or are those not part of them?
The solution we are looking for is not only a technical solution, so other elements could be part of it. And again, I cannot give a strict reply on whether this could be definitely a good or a bad idea, but it could be part of it, of the solution, as the call text is quite open and gives really the freedom of identifying what is needed to make sure that the vulnerable communities are catered for. So whether that is with technical solutions or a combination of different dimensions, it's all allowed.
But it's very clear that social innovation is fully part of the solution. Yeah. We cannot transform society at local level, regional level, or national level, or European level without combining technical solutions with profound economic and social changes and social innovation. Literature on transformative change, the theory of change also is quite clear about that. And of course, all the proposals need to be science-based and be based on what literature is suggesting. And what is not yet in the literature. So that's how you can innovate, actually. Next question. Is there a limited maximum number of partners of the same country? This is a question that comes since many years. And let's go back, Irene, if you agree, to remind what are the minimum and criteria.
Yeah. Normally, depending on the type of action, there are minimum criteria. So for a CSA, typically one partner is sufficient. But clearly here, I think Federico already described what we are expecting in terms of scope. For research and innovation action and innovation actions, normally we need minimum 3 partners from different member states. Now, in our case, anyhow, we have underlined that we also want demonstration to come from, at least for the demonstration topic, from 06 to 09, the demonstration to happen in 3 different regions, in 3 different member states. So we are actually putting a little bit more challenge there. Now, said that, normally the call text and the general rules of Horizon Europe prescribe minimum numbers. There is nothing like a maximum numbers. There is, however, a maximum number of pages in the proposal, and there is a maximum budget available. So clearly, there is also typically, we'll say, an evaluation by the expert evaluators of how commensurate is the scope of the work towards the ambition and towards the consortium that is proposed, whether every partner in the consortium has a role to play and whether it's just a real and important role to play. So normally there are also questions about efficiency, and we have seen before that too large consortia can also be quite inefficient, let's say, because of managing costs being higher than the outcome of that.
Okay, this gives me the opportunity also to remind that the specificities of the mission calls are not sufficiently known to actors or potential applicants. I'm meeting scientists from different countries, different organizations, also people from the private sector, from public authorities, and often they don't see really the specificity of the mission and what they could get through the mission. So I encourage you, if you are representing an organization, to spread the information, highlighting the specificities of the mission and what are the new opportunities that the missions are offering that were not offered previously, because many of the actors think that Horizon Europe calls are not for them. This is often not true, because Horizon Europe calls are also evolving through the mission in particular. Next question, are synergies with other missions encouraged? The question is the answer is clearly yes, and I've been referring to that in a previous intervention. Involve a city's mission or activities in collaboration with the soil mission? Yes, 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 please do. I don't think we need to further expand unless you wish to add something on this. Then we can take the next question about topic 01 and 02. The duration of project is about 2 years. How flexible can this duration be?
Well, the text, and here I think we need to really always reflect what is written in the text, says it is expected that the project will have a duration of about 2 years. So already in this about 2 years, you would find, as you mentioned in the question, that there is some level of flexibility that is embedded in the text. Of course, the duration should fit the proposal and should be duly justified. So within this about 2 years, you would find a certain level of flexibility that in any case, it's preferable, according to the text, to be centered around this time frame that we in the text deem as the ideal duration for the type of objectives that this topics actually put forward.
Very good. How can the regions and localities assure that they will maintain the solution in place for the future? Any additional commitment to be provided?
I think that's an interesting question. The text is not explicit asking for, indeed, for instance, letter of support or for the region to come and contribute in financing, but surely those could be ways of showing such a commitment. So again, the text is not prescribing how, and will be evaluated as also part probably of the credibility of the proposal. We have seen in the past that a letter of support could be a way to do it, but again, could be a way of doing. It's not the only way of doing. Normally, local and regional authorities, being public bodies, are allowed 100% reimbursement rate, but nobody prohibits people also to ask potential partners to ask less than what the maximum reimbursement could be. So I think there are ways, but there is not a preferred way which has been indicated. So I'm just giving 2 ideas here, but again, that could be done like that or in different ways. And I think maybe there is a question of whether a cascading funding budget could be provided to regional and local authorities to participate. In reality, no. Normally, when we have cascading funding, we actually put it already. I mean, when this is allowed by the call, and we had in a couple of cases in the past under the mission, this is already in the call text and is part of the specific conditions that do apply. So in this case, we have not put that as part of the specific conditions. So normally the regional and the local authorities will be expected to come in the consortium themselves.
Yeah, I would like to add to your reply to the first question that is technically, of course, very correct, that we hope that the regions and the local entities implementing a demonstrator in their area are willing to maintain it after, because the whole purpose is to increase resilience over the longer term, because the impacts from climate change will increase, and therefore they can already reflect on how to maintain through other funding instruments that than Horizon Europe, the infrastructure or the solutions that they decided to implement. This needs to be reflected on from the early stage of the project proposal thinking, but there's no commitment, of course, that can be taken for the whole duration of the lifetime of the solution being implemented. But we hope that they see their own interest in investing in that and maintaining what has been put in place. On topic number 5, is this topic aiming to create outputs to resemble what is available from smart specialization and innovation agendas. I see that my colleagues are, so I will take my responsibility. Of course,
No, we're checking something.
It's very nice that you're referring to the smart specialization and innovation agenda, because these are guiding documents for some of the regions, not all, to be honest, but it's a sound approach to reflect across all strategic documents for economic development of the regions and see the place that adaptation and resilience, adaptation to climate change and resilience has in those documents. So that is a sound approach, but I would say that the smart specialization strategy is at the root of the thinking in this area, and the projects implemented through the missions are on the downstream deployment on the smart specialization strategy. So the goal of the project is not to fuel the strategy itself, but more to deliver in the implementation of the strategy. That is the logic that is pursued.
And mainstream adaptation.
And mainstream adaptation, of course, this is indispensable. On topic number 8, can or should this project include a combination of innovative actions and research components leading to both guidelines and academic papers? I think the reply is a bit similar to what we said previously. Academic papers are welcome, as this is a new experiment, and we want to fund the development of knowledge, but it's not the only product that is expected from mission-related activities. I don't know who is asking the question, but from the young generation, I rarely have such a question. For the young generation of researchers and people, they want to give a meaning to their research, to their activities, to their PhD, and they will produce paper, but they want to see what is also happening with their results. So papers is a mean, not an end, and for the mission is only one of the products. On topic number 3, does the project need to ensure indicator data availability beyond the funded period?
That's one. I can take it.
Please.
Okay, so that's a very good question. If we look at the text, it is not specified, but I think here what is more important is really to recall like the essence of this topic. And the essence of this topic is really to move research forward into how to measure climate resilience. And so it's much more about developing and putting in place how to measure that as outcome indicators than just having something that is up and running, because we don't think it is the case at this stage. So it's not specified in the text, but of course, if we want the lifetime of the project to and the project to be more impactful, it would be better, of course, if it's beyond the lifetime of the project.
Very good. On topic number 6, can SME lead on this goal, given that bringing in private investment is key?
Yes. Normally, again, everybody can be leading in a consortium, and I think very much in the scope of being really here, let's say the actors being the private investors and actually deploying solutions for regional and local authorities, it would be very welcome. Now, normally we have seen in the past that it's maybe less obvious for partners which are not from the academic background, but it will be very welcome in such a case, because this really seems to be that they are really the actors that need to be sitting in the leading side. So, yeah, direct participation is a requirement, and I think if direct participation even becomes leading, I think will be possibly seen as a positive thing. Now, I think there was another. No, I think that I saw another question on who could be part of the consortium, and again, there are requirements on the number we said, there are requirements here, we're putting requirements on regions and local authorities. But again, the most active role, those partners, the private business are taking, the better it is probably to fit into to deliver to the scope.
Thank you. I will take the question on topic 07 first because it relates to the previous answer. Yeah. While it is an innovation action, you seem to target local authorities. What role should SMEs play? SMEs can play a great role. And we really invite not only SMEs, but any entity from the private sector to engage and participate in the calls, be part of the consortium. SMEs provide sometimes data, sometimes tools, sometimes technical solutions, sometimes advices, planning, any kind of service downstream or upstream from the innovation chain, and therefore it should not be interpreted as a call only for local authorities. It is to serve the local authorities with the solutions, of course, because the solutions for adaptation need to be deployed on the ground. But any partner, be it from the public or private sector, is welcome. And the private sector participation is even more than welcome. It's strongly encouraged. On topic number 2. One hub per country is expected. Should it be in all member states or in a number of them? And if so, on how many member states should it be?
Thanks for the question, because it's an important question, and I'm happy to clarify once more. Now, the text says, and this is, I think it's important, the project, of course, should benefit all member states. So in that sense, it's indeed one hub per country with all member states. At the same time, what's the caveat here? The caveat here is that we are aware, and it's written in the text, that some member states already have the equivalent of hubs or structures in place. In such case, the objective is not to duplicate efforts, it's not to create a new hub, but in that case, it would be simply supporting those hubs in connecting better with the mission. For example, serving them with information products or logistic support. So replying to your question, to summarize, it's all member states, but de facto the numbers of hubs at the end would be less than 27 member states, because some of the member states already have hubs in place, and the idea really here is to bring to the member state what's needed. If they already have such structure, there is no need and no scope for duplications and efforts.
Yeah, and the goal is, of course, not to multiply the number of entities and create hubs for the sake of creating hubs or creating jobs. The goal is to have an infrastructure that helps in delivering towards the regions and the local entities. Hubs are helpful in this regard, but it needs to remain efficient, and the hub, again, is a mean, not an end. It's like the results platform. You certainly know that there are many knowledge and results platforms. The platform is a mean and not an end to transfer knowledge to those who need to use it.
May I maybe add something that, Philippe, you know, connecting what you mentioned, I think it's also important to, to recall from the presentation and from the text. When we talk about national hubs, the text is clear, and it's defining the national hubs as task forces or working groups. They're also defined as, and I quote again, light, agile, and flexible structure. So I think this approach and this description should guide the proposal in a way that I think is, I would say, informing also the type of question that we receive. I imagine also linking it with the budget available and with the type of ambition that those hubs can have. So I think these all come together to provide you with the right information on how to indeed shape the proposal in the best way possible.
Thank you. That's clear. On topic 5, does assessing impact refers to analyzing the current impacts that many resources and platforms provide to include in the training.
I'm not sure I fully understand the question.
Me neither.
But if I do understand it, when you look at the topic text, it says that it's developed a training module for regions, localities, communities in local language on how to best include adaptation measure in their just transition policies. So this is, the training is really about providing solutions to the regions, communities and local authorities, and assessing the impact. The impact is much more about the science that is behind. And I'm not sure I fully understand the part on the resource and platform, but of course, as we said before, it's important to build on what's there, but the goal here is the knowledge, not so much the resources.
Yeah, since Alberto Minghella, you had the courage to put your name, you're not an anonymous user, and you belong to Climate Kick, you know how to reach us, and we can go further in detail if the answer is not sufficiently clear, or if we didn't understand it properly.
And if anything's interesting, we understand better the question. If anything interesting comes, we will obviously make it public to everybody through the portal for fairness towards, obviously making maybe clarification if needed, but maybe, yeah, we can have.
Exactly. This is a very important point. When we receive questions through the Research Inquiry Service or directly to the Mission Secretariat, if we find that this information is need to be known to all, it will be disseminated to all through the tenders portal, as done for the other calls in Horizon Europe. On topic 4, is there any recommendation on the number of case studies to be used?
There is nothing in the text about that, apart from the fact that we need case studies on both the effects of climate on biodiversity and other sectors and the effect of biodiversity on climate. But it's up to the proposal to put forward what they think is the most valuable or the most logical or the most the best number.
Good. Coming back to Alberto Minghella, how do you suggest to select the regions? A mix of maturities or just the best in class?
Again, there is nothing in the text about that, but something to keep in mind is that inclusivity is really at the heart of the mission, and this is exemplified by 2 of the 3 demos that are trying to target groups that are more traditionally left aside. And so with that in mind and in the spirit of the mission, having a mix of maturities is also something that would be very, very much in the spirit of the mission.
And if I may, there was a question at some point whether I think meant overseas territories or outermost region could be a target, because they are more subject to a place where to run the demonstration, because they are more vulnerable to climate change. And again, none of the calls here actually calls out a specific way to choose those regions, but clearly it is up to the proposal also to justify why certain regions have been chosen more than others. And the recently published EUCRA, so the European-wide Climate Risk Assessment report, do show where the impacts of climate change are going to be hitting the most. So probably some reference also to who is most need could help to support the reasons why a certain proposal had made a certain choices. So it's not that we can tell you how to choose the regions, but any argument that actually can prove to the expert, and vulnerability being one of the ways to choose, could be considered and has been considered before one of the way to choose.
Yeah, and I would add that I would invite you to have a look at the mission implementation plan, which is the founding document of this mission. It also recalls the principle of the mission on how to be inclusive, account for the vulnerables while progressing. And if you need to progress, you also need to involve the leaders, because the mission is meant to be ahead and test solutions that can be then replicated by others. So it's an experiment on a voluntary basis, and the political commitment and the willingness to move forward is a very important feature of the mission. Where does the topic 5 called sit in the 6 mission intervention steps within the adaptation implementation plan? I was referring to the adaptation plan and it comes on the screen. It's a miracle. There must be some artificial intelligence detecting what I was just saying. Would you like to take this topic, Sophie or Irene?
I can try. And
or we can postpone. I mean, if we don't have the answer live, we can also keep the question and address it through the, it's a very specific question. We need to recall every step of the mission implementation plan and relate it. What would you like to do?
Let's try and see if the person asking is not satisfied, then they could rechannel their question through the funding portal. But in my view, this topic is much more about the enabling conditions for the missions to be a success than in part of the specific steps. And this is especially true because it's a research and innovation action. So it's really focused a lot also on developing new knowledge and understanding better. And so in that regard, it is very much about putting the conditions together to really lay the ground for adaptation.
So I would say it's quite in the early steps, but maybe we can indeed complement in writing.
Well, it is obviously not specified in the call, and our role is not to interpret. So here we try to use common sense. If you want to make your opinion, have a look at the call text, and then use your best knowledge and common sense to define your views. And you heard what the colleagues have said, and it's also quite reasonable, the answer that they provided. On topic 3, could you please explain the exception subject to restrictions for the protection of European communication networks? What is meant in this expression apparently used in topic number 3? Sophie, you recalled?
This I would refer to the funding and tender portal because this was added very late in the process by the central services and in discussions with the member states. So this is also valid for other related topic in all these amendments. So it's better to have it clarified by the relevant people.
May I kindly therefore invite you to send your question as formulated to the Research Inquiry Service. I hope if you look through a browser for the email address, you will find it easily. If you don't, let me know, because it's very important that the Research Inquiry Service is easily searchable through a browser. But please send a question to them and it will be addressed and probably posted also on the tenders portal. On topic 4, with risk and maladaptation, do you mean possible negative impacts of solutions on climate or biodiversity, or maladaptation leakage across space? See that the question, the more we go, the more difficult the questions are getting. We are soon getting to the end of the session. Maladaptation is quite well defined in the scientific literature and risks, and I would understand that by risk and maladaptation, its adverse effect on on climate itself, on other components of the environment, or on society. That's what I see. There is no need to go necessarily further. Maladaptation is defined, and I would invite you to check the definition in IPCC document, for instance. Do you see each project delivered by a single entity or by a consortium? I think we answered this question.
I think we answered that question, and there is probably a similar question. Apart from a CSA, which normally, legally speaking, could also be the proposal can be actually proposal by a single partner normally, all the others, by legal requirement, they do have to have multiple partners, minimum 3. But again, here we're also putting more requirements. So really, the encouragement here is really to read the call text, because really this is what counts. And I think we already expressed that the demonstration activities can take place, or UK partners, now that UK is associated back to Horizon Europe, are fully eligible partners, so they can really be partner in the consortium, they can be the place where the demonstration can take place, they can be the leader in that consortium. So I think we already cover for that in a number of previous questions.
Okay, how is this mission working with cluster 5 and cluster 6? They have similar thematics. So it depends how do you take the question. This mission is funded through contributions from the different clusters, but it's hosted in the work program of cluster 5. It's a mission work program, but the center of gravity of the mission is still in cluster 5. But of course, the mission is relevant to several other clusters. So it's relevant to cluster 6 activities. But if your question is about how does it connect to the projects and the calls funded through cluster 5 and cluster 6 outside from the mission, well, it depends really on the respective topics, but the goal of the mission calls is to really address the priorities and the objectives of the mission on adaptation to climate change. There are some activities relevant to adaptation to climate change in cluster 5 and cluster 6 in the normal calls of Horizon Europe and in the portfolio of projects of Horizon Europe. And of course, the transfer from those, the transfer of knowledge from those projects to the mission projects is encouraged. But this depends really on the nature of the results that are produced under cluster 5 and cluster 6, I would say, classical projects. Some are relevant to the mission and could be tested through the mission, and we invite for this to happen. And the same reasoning is also true for the the Horizon Europe partnerships. If you are aware of results from projects funded through the Horizon Europe partnerships, that could be useful to the mission. The transfer of knowledge between the different type of projects and activities within Horizon Europe towards the mission is encouraged. Next, for topic 6, this call is about bankability. How can the demonstration be physical?
I think maybe similar to a question we had before. All the demonstrations do require for some solutions to be implemented on the ground. So here, in terms of bankability, the idea is that the solutions that will be implemented on the ground assures better bankability, because it combines different aspects like mitigation aspects, and therefore there is an easier way to secure financing by private sectors, banking sectors, and contributors. So again, the idea is similar to the other project, that the solution is hitting the ground, and bringing into the consortium the private partners is a way to prove the bankability. So it's not a theoretical exercise, as we have reminded a number of times, it's about implementation of task solutions on the ground.
Yeah, and we can also innovate in bankability. If we look at the criteria and we test criteria on bankability on the ground with projects that are meant to be deployed, this is an interesting and innovative experiment. How will the EU mission adaptation ensure that in all member states, including urban areas and local administration, get sufficient attention on this urgent topic? Well, I would go back to you and say, you can ensure. From this small studio with a small team, with a few people, we do our best. And it's thanks to the good relays that you will provide dissemination of the calls, discussion with the local authorities and your national authorities that you will convince. I see that you come from Austria. Austria is a good example where the organization is extremely good, and the information on the activities of the mission has been going through the relevant authorities quite well. So I would just encourage you to continue to support us, to participate, and to share the knowledge that you developed through the mission, and that you may actually also develop through the calls that you may apply to. And last question, just in time, demonstration activities. Can the demonstration be based in the UK as an associated country? Yes, the answer is yes. As I said, believe it or not, the UK is back fully in Horizon Europe, and welcome back. So if the activities are funded through Horizon Europe, the demonstration can take place in the UK. But in the UK, if you wish to combine this with other funding from EU funding instruments, such as LIFE or other programs, you have to see whether the UK is eligible. But that is for combined funding through different EU funding sources. And of course, the national funding schemes can be mobilized in the UK to support further the activities and deploy at greater scale. I think this leads us, we exhausted the questions. I'm particularly proud. Congratulations to the colleagues for having answered all of them. And I would like also to thank you for the rich set of questions that you proposed. I will conclude with just a few reminders. The website of the mission portal, you will see this presentation available on different sources. I hope the portal as well soon. And so you can click and reach easily the different platforms and websites that you may wish to consult. You can also find the names of your national contact points. You can relate directly to the document in PDF form of the work program 2024 and access the funding intended portal that has a new interface that I saw recently. So I would like to thank you very much. And by also reminding that there's a brokerage event on 21st and 22nd of May. The event will focus on the following Horizon Europe and mission calls, so combining different calls, not only strictly those from the mission, and that will help you in exploiting the synergies between different parts of Horizon Europe opportunities. So adaptation to climate change will be, of course, at the center, but also the ocean mission, the cities mission, the soil mission calls, cross-cutting activities, and I invite you to join this event. You can participate, of course, to the plenary session and set up bilateral meetings with potential partners and find the best ones. And I wish with this to thank you for your patience also, because it was a very informative and rich session. And recall that the closing date for the calls under this part of the work program is 18th of September 2024. And do participate to the brokerage event, follow the mission, also provide your comments or your questions to the Research Inquiry Service or to the national authorities, because still the missions and its specificities need to be better known, and will have, through a good circulation of the information, even better proposal. Good luck, enjoy, and I hope you will succeed. Thank you very much, and thank you to the colleagues.
Thank you.